Storm Thomas and I, we worked at Walmart actually. And I was like, dude, you kind of look like John Cena. And he's like, oh, I love wrestling. And then I'm like, dude, I wrestle with Central Empire Wrestling. Like, dude, you need to come out and work out. He came to the shows and he fell in love with it. Next thing you know, he's getting trained by Bayless.
Everything about him in my wrestling career is pretty memorable. He made it memorable. He's the total package of everything a wrestler should have and be. When he moved to Florida and came back, man, it just was so good.
He had the look, he had the background, and he was just, he had that star power, and Austin just knew it from the beginning.
Really felt like he just, once he got started, he hit his stride and he was going to be a pro wrestler. And he just had a presence about him that everybody loved. You wanted to see him win.
One of the best matches I've really ever seen. The story those two told that night was incredible. They had absolutely, in my opinion, the match of the night that night. Like, those two just did a different kind of magic that night. I was blown away. Like, that story they told was just pure perfection, I thought.
Here to induct Storm Thomas into the CW Hall of Fame, fellow Hall of Famer Evan Jordan.
Thanks, Austin. Unlike Sean, I don't have 17 pages. Which is probably good, because I'm not good on the mic. I have one page. Where do I start? So Storm Thomas and I, we worked in retail together, and I walked by the photo lab and I had to take a double take. And I was like, holy crap, we hired John Cena or what? So I walked up and I was like, dude, he's like, I know. The look, I'm like, do you like wrestling? He's like, oh, I love it. I'm like, dude, I wrestle for Central Empire Wrestling. You gotta come to a show. He's like, all right, I'll check it out. I'm like, no, seriously. And it was like weeks in the making. So finally, we had a show at YMCA, and Storm Thomas is in the front row, and he's living life and enjoying it. And then at work, I was like, how'd you like it? He's like, I loved it, man. I was like, you need to get with Austin Bayless. I'm like, I'm telling you, we can make something happen. He's like, all right, I'll give it a shot. Let's see. He connected with Austin, and he started training, and like the rest is history, like what you've seen. We've developed a bond that can't be broken. Like, I'm proud to call him a brother of mine. Cherish him with all my heart. He's been wrestling for, in pro wrestling experience for 12 years. 2 years training wrestlers. He has appearance on WWE, Impact, AEW as well. He was also the 2018 Cauliflower Alley Club Men's Wrestler of the Year, that's awesome. That club that's recognized so many well-known wrestlers as Honky Tonk Man, Bill DeMott, Jake Roberts, Adam Copeland, Diamond Dallas Page, Christopher Daniels, Paul Orndorff, Greg Valentine, and the list goes on and on. Like, that's a huge accolade. That's an awesome accomplishment. I'm glad that I was able to come in contact with, Tony when I did. I was at the top of what I was doing, along with Sean. Like, we came up together, and Sean was my big first, test. Like, yeah, we worked together and, we ups and downs, but I was like, dude, this guy's a freaking giant. Like, I want to be in a ring with him, let alone a steel cage. But he helped me excel to the top where I was at, and then I was able to, do whatever I could to help Tony take that next leap and excel what he was doing. It's my honor to have him being inducted into the 2023 Hall of Fame, and I love you.
Ready, guys, John?
Thank you. Give me a minute. Gotta pull the JT real quick. I need to take this in. I don't do emotions. Tonight I have to. So, whether you met me as Tony Evelyn, Tony Storm, Storm Thomas, I am that. But I'm none of that without all of you. And I'm not just saying that because it sounds cool, I say it because I mean it. I could stand up here for hours, and I could tell you stories, every detail of the conversations that Evan Jordan and I had at that Walmart before I ever got hired at William Penn University. I could tell you hour-long stories about the conversations that Austin and I had prior to the deal we made to have me come train at the Central Empire Wrestling Academy. I could tell you hours worth of stories of Donnie Pepper Cricket and Sean and Evan teaching me everything that I knew for 2 solid years before I had the opportunity to move to Florida to be closer to family. Now, when I left, I only got into wrestling to have fun with my buddies. That's what it was. I actually left my boots with Austin when I left, and I was done. It was a fun thing. It was cool while it lasted, but it was over. It's 2012. I live in Tampa, and now I'm the manager of an LA Fitness. And my entire life got flipped upside down when Steve Kern walked into my gym. For those of you who don't know, Steve Kern is responsible for all of the top stars in today's wrestling world. He was in charge of Florida Championship Wrestling, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley, whatever you want to call him, Seth Rollins, the Usos. All of those guys trained under Steve Kern. Steve and I became friends. Steve convinced me to get back into wrestling. Steve introduced me to a ton of independent talent and promoters in Florida, and I had to call Austin Bayless because my loyalty has always been here. And I asked Austin if it was okay if I trained down there, continued to train, and continued to work. He had me get a hold of Tim, who had my boots. They shipped them down, and with their blessing, I went to finishing school. I got my bachelor's, so to say, at Central Empire Wrestling, and then I went on and I got my master's, my PhD from lifelong experiences down in Florida. While I was down there, things got good. Everybody always thought I had it. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it is, still to this day. I stand amongst you, a Hall of Fame inductee, yet I feel like a fraud. I never had that dream that Sean had, that Evan had, or that Austin had. I didn't ever
want to be a professional wrestler. Wrestling found me. Austin found me. Austin made me believe I was capable when I didn't think I was. My whole life, I never thought I could achieve things. I'm very critical of myself, just like I'm sure most of you sitting in front of me are. If you learn anything from me, learn that anything is possible. When I started wrestling at Central Empire Wrestling in front of 150 people, most of you that I still see sitting in front of me, thank you for following. We never knew that it would turn into 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 plus people last year. And for that, I thank you. I thank all of you. Because again, I'm just a guy. A guy in a pair of tights with a pair of boots who has no idea what it really is. I'm still learning. Thank you, Harold. Thank you for bringing up the WWE, the AEW, the Impact work. All that was great. And it taught me a lot of life lessons, and it taught me how to take rejection. But to piggyback off of what Mr. Hebner said earlier, the independence is where I'm happy. The independence is where we thrive because we have that creative control. And, you know, I love JT Energy. I had his very first match. You want to talk about moments? I had his very first match in Central Empire Wrestling. And I love JT because he refers to himself as Mr. Bridge City Slam. And I respect that. He's main evented most of them. Never lost. Sean and I main evented the very first Bridge City Slam. And I find it absolutely poetic that he and I get to join the Hall of Fame class in the same night. I truly would not want to join with anybody else because of how special Bridge City Slam was, because it was a risk we had built to just that level that we didn't know if there would ever be a Bridge City Slam 2. Fast forward, Bridge City Slam 2, I had the opportunity to work with Mr. Kennedy, Kurt Gannon, and Big Bad Wallace in a fatal 4-way. And I was told by another one of our Empire Award recipients that that was the match of the night, that fatal 4-way. And I was like, wow, that was out. You know what? That was a good match. Thank you. That's a fantastic compliment. Anytime, you all know this, anytime someone tells you you stole the show, that's a great day. Bridge City Slam 3. I got a call. Austin Bayless says, hey, I want to wrestle Chris Masters. I was like, yes. I've wrestled Chris in Florida. It's a great match. Like, I'd love to do that in front of my home crowd, right? Because again, Central Empire Wrestling will always be home. A few weeks out, Chris Masters backs out. Double booked himself, whatever the case was, to try to find a replacement. Last minute, we come up with JTG. If you were at Bridge City Slam 3, you know what I'm about to tell you. JTG and I stole the show. Yes, you did. Then, it wasn't much longer after I got an email. Like I discussed earlier, talking about that rejection. But it was a great email. I had completed the 3-day Performance Center tryout, and Matt Bloom had been in contact with me multiple times. We'd email back and forth. And this email, he let me know that the WWE did not see a long-term future with me, mostly because of my age. And I wasn't mad. I took it with a grain of salt and I said, you know what? Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. you know, if there's ever anything that I can do for you, please feel free to let me know. And he reached out and he was like, you know, I've never had anybody take that rejection so well. I'd love to keep you on the list for extra work and stuff like that. I was like, no need. I came in there to find out if I was good enough. You never said I wasn't good enough. You just said you didn't see the value in investing that type of money for a long-term investment. So that told me I don't have anything left to accomplish. As it was pointed out, I've worked for them, I've worked for AEW, I was the 2018 Cauliflower Alley Club men's wrestler. And that was one of the highest accolades that I could ever even dream of. And as you saw in the photo, Austin and Kelsey, my family, flew all the way to Las Vegas to support me through that. I, at that point, had achieved everything that I thought I could achieve. So I called Austin and I said, hey, Bridge City Slam 4, it's my last match. You got 6 months. Let's build to that. And we decided that my last match was going to mimic the very first time I got into a wrestling with Austin Bayless. And we talked week in and week out, and Austin didn't know if we could pull this off. Where do we go? Do we main event? Do we start the show? I said, put us on for intermission. Let's end the first half on a great note. He goes, how long do you want to go? I said, as long as it takes. I don't know how long I can go. I haven't had a match in 40 years. I said, Austin, correct me if I'm wrong. I said, I'm going to put you on my back and wear you like a backpack. And I'm going to give you the best match that you've ever had. If you were at Bridge City Slam 4, you heard what Zach said in the video. One more time, I was able to steal the show. I might not be Mr. Bridge City Slam, but I laid the foundation for the first Bridge City Slam. Central Empire Wrestling put a rocket on my back and allowed me to succeed or fail. And I will never be more grateful to anyone or any company as much as I am for Austin and Kelsey and the Baylesses and everybody else for allowing me the opportunity to just do what I ended up falling in love with, which was to wrestle and put on a show and entertain a crowd. I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. I could tell a million stories. I fell in love with this business so much that even when I thought I was done,
You came back.
Austin brought me back, and he made me realize I put all my eggs in the basket of getting a full-time job, and I forgot why I started. I started to have fun with my friends. So now, in front of you, as you saw at the last Central Empire Wrestling show, stands a different Storm Thomas. Somebody who is no longer trying to seek the acceptance of the Fed, the veterans, the old-timers. No disrespect, Mr. Hebner. But I learned that if I'm going to continue to do it, I need to do it my way. I'm excited for this next run. I'm excited to be joining the Central Empire Wrestling Class of 2023 Hall of Fame. But before I end this, I need to take a few moments to just thank everybody who put me in this position. So first, I want to take the opportunity to thank the people that were recognized before me. So one more time, can we please give it up for the Inmans who have gone above and beyond. Above and beyond every single show, day in and day out, to make sure that I have everything I need to entertain hundreds and thousands of people. Zach, thank you for allowing me to tell my story to not just the people in this room, to not just the people that are in front of me in that ring, but to the thousands and tens and hundreds and thousands and millions of people who have listened to your podcast. Thank you. Mrs. B, Mr. B, thank you for believing. Thank you for not believing. everything that you two have done have ignited a fire into this young man. And as we all know, if it wasn't for him, there would never be a Storm Thomas. There would never be a Hall of Fame induction. There wouldn't be a WWE tryout. There wouldn't have been a Cauliflower Alley Club. Sean. Somebody said earlier, Sean was one of the funniest people in the room. Sean's also one of the funniest people in the wrestling ring. Sean taught me a lot when I first got into the business. He humbled me quickly, let me know that no matter how good I looked, no matter how well I talked, no matter how charismatic I was or thought I was, there was always somebody out there trying to take my job. And I needed to hear that. What I didn't always need to hear was in the middle of the wrestling match when I'm trying to stay focused and I accidentally hit him a little too hard. Damn kid, do I owe you money? Sean, I'm trying to work right now, bro, and you are really ruining this moment for me. But when I look back, it was one of the fondest memories, you know. And let me piggyback off of what was said earlier. When Sean did that turn and he broke into that cage and he chokeslammed me, it did not only set a trajectory for his career, it set a trajectory for mine. Because that moment was when the fans really started to get behind Storm Thomas. Tony Storm or whoever I was that moment. That chokeslam lived for moments. Like I was hanging up there for what felt like forever, and I'm sure what felt like for the fans and everybody else forever as well. And I'll tell you what, it's a good thing you retired when you did, because I don't ever want to have that again. Pass. Give it to somebody else. But thank you, because without you guys, the guy that feels like a fraud wouldn't be here. To my family, my mom and my dad have been a supporter since day one, similar to Austin. My dad footed the bill for my first batch of t-shirts. And I said, I'm gonna pay it back. Nope. Put it to the next order. Put the rest in an account. Whatever profit you make, do another order. Do another order. Do another order. How many times have they flown to Iowa just to watch me lose? Not that wins and losses matter, but I mean, at some point you gotta be tired of watching your kid get pinned. My daughters. My oldest daughter was 6 months old on my very first match. She's been here the whole ride. My youngest, probably my biggest fan. And I appreciate all the support and all the love. My nephews, thank you boys for making this trip with me. And I'll be really honest, if it wasn't for those two boys, I probably wouldn't have got back into wrestling, because 6 and 9 are very, very pivotal years. How old were you guys when you fell in love with wrestling as a fan? Right about that age, right? Right when I got pinned by Austin at Bridge City Slam 4 is when they hit their stride and falling in love with wrestling. And part of me coming back is being able to give them the same moments that I've given all of you over these last 12 years. So boys, thank you. And last but not least, I have to thank my wife, who unfortunately couldn't be here. She lost her grandfather this week, and she flew to Idaho to be with her grandmother and help facilitate the funeral services, which are so coincidentally going on right now. Jenna is my rock. She holds me up when I want to fall. I almost called Austin and canceled this whole weekend on Monday when we found out her grandfather died, because part of my comeback, I made a promise to everybody that wrestling was not going to be a priority. I was just going to have fun with my friends. And right before I could pick up the phone, she said, no, you can't go to Idaho with me. And most of us men who are married, we know that we don't just let our wives go on cross-country trips by themselves. It's our job to protect them. It's our job to support them and be there for them in their time of need. She looked me dead in my face and she said, Tony, you worked for 12 years to get where you are. The fans need to see you. Your friends need to celebrate with you. You and Sean started Bridge City Slam. You and Sean need to finish the Hall of Fame. And as much as I don't want to admit it, she's right. Because as much as she's my support, she's the strongest person I've ever met in my whole life, and I know that if anybody can handle leaving Tampa and flying to Birmingham and then flying to Chicago and then flying to Salt Lake and then driving from Salt Lake up to Idaho Falls by themselves, it's her. So, thank you, family. Thank you, friends. Thank you, peers. Thank you, veterans. Thank you, Austin. Central Empire Wrestling is my home, and as arrogant as this might sound, I am, and I always will be, Central Empire Wrestling. Thank you all.